Good evening, Tuckahoe. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the month of January 2019. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Nancy, please take the roll.
Member Garrity.
Present.
Member Fiore.
Present.
Member Palladino.
Present.
Member Jackman.
Present.
Chairman Ringwald.
Present. Okay, public, sorry for the delay and people in the room. Tonight we have a couple of agenda items. One will be the approval of the minutes of the December meeting. 242 White Plains Road is here tonight. 47 Rogers Street is adjourned. I'm sorry, 242 is adjourned, I apologize. 47 Rogers is adjourned. 82 Wallace Street is a return. And we have a new one at 38 Pleasant Place. First, we will do the approvals of the minutes of the December the 12th meeting. Does any member have any questions, additions, or deletions to the minutes as drafted?
No.
Seeing none, I make a motion to approve the minutes for the December the 12th, 2018 meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. 47 Rogers Street is adjourned, sorry, thank you. We have 82 Wallace Street, construct a new apartment building. Would the applicant please step forward, state their name for the record?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Stephen Accinelli from Veneruso, Curto, Schwartz, and Curto on behalf of the applicant.
Okay,
As the board will recall, when we were back here in September, there were a number of comments and concerns raised by the board. And in response, the applicant, together with its architect, Nima Badali, who is here with me this evening as well, made a number of significant changes to both the design of the building, which Mr. Badali will explain to the board and to the members of the public. What I'd like to do is just talk a little bit about some of the more significant changes that were made. One of the comments had to do with the mix of the units. So what we did was we reconfigured the units to make the unit configuration much more family-oriented. We eliminated the majority of this studio and singles, and we went to significantly more two-bedroom apartments.
I would like to clarify, it's not family related. It is that not so many one bedrooms, and they were very tiny one bedrooms. They were, you can correct me, but I believe 500 square foot one bedrooms.
Right. It was initially 41 one bedrooms under the original proposal.
Thank you.
excuse me for interrupting. You know what I think would help? Do you have the picture of the original, the straight, more of a box-type shape with the approximately 50 single units? All right, so you can, if the camera could zero in on that, just to give the public a general idea of what's going on here. The original plan was more of a square box. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct, right.
With approximately 50 small one-bedroom apartments. So the concern of this board was didn't fit in the neighborhood, was not attractive, too many one-bedrooms, and we asked for a mix and for a more attractive building shape.
Correct.
Fair enough?
Correct.
All right, thanks.
So we added the two setbacks.
Right.
In the rear to the rear of the building. We also increased the green space for the tenants, which was another issue that was requested and concern of the board. So we did that as well. With respect to the unit configuration, so at present we are proposing 2 studio apartments, 7 one-bedrooms, which is down from 41. 22 bedrooms, which is up from 6, and 3 3-bedrooms, which is up from 0 as originally proposed. So our position is now we're happy with the revised structure. We have sufficient parking, 48 spaces. There is no parking variance part of this application, and the unit number is down. Originally we were asking for 52 units. Now we are seeking 32 units. So with that, I'd like to introduce Nima Badali. He could explain some of the structures and design changes to the board in more detail.
Excellent, great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nima Bedali. I'm the architect for the project. Can I move this? Yeah. Okay, great. Basically, few of the changes that was done because of the concerns of the board and recommendations of the board, we took the building, as you mentioned, from a box-type shape into stepping it, as the board was recommending, to provide better light into the street and setbacks so that it doesn't appear like a 5-story building. And now it's really a 2-story, then setback to another 2. Other things that we did do, as I can show on the site plan, we provided a very nice large area setbacks of 25 to 30 feet on Wall Street side, which...
If I could interrupt you for a second. This was actually very helpful. Do you have this printout to show the public?
unfortunately, it looks like my office printed the same one twice.
Would you mind,
You
you could
can
put
put
that
that
up at least so the public could see? I think this is an important view for us from Wallace. I think one of the biggest parts to us was the amount of green space you had around the building. We didn't want to feel your neighbors feeling cramped. And you put a fairly significant setback on the Wallace side. What is that, 20 to 30 feet?
Yes, 25 to 30. At the narrow point is about 25 feet, and it widens to about 30 feet. And we created all this green space here, as well as in front of the building, and as well as we introduced this recreation area with the gazebo to the side. So we also provided all these recreation areas on the terraces of the building. So we drastically increased the green area for the building. Other things that we did, we went and surveyed the whole property and made the building so that it much better fits within the area. We went through the architecture of the building and introduced a lot of details and balconies that we didn't have, and take it completely out of that box type.
And I think, not to speak for the whole board, but we appreciate the amount of attention you paid to our comments in the previous meeting.
Yeah,
I do like that
I
you're
agree.
sitting on Wallace Street. You know, your neighbor on Wallace Street is not going to even see that. You know, you've got almost 50, 60 feet before you even hit the building from Wallace.
Can our cameraman zoom in on that picture in the upper
Can you
right
zoom
corner
in for the
for the public?
as close as you can get. Looks like that's as close as you can get.
Did he leave?
Oh, he's trying. There we go. There we go.
Thank you.
So I mean, it's a significant green space
If
that
you
they've
could
left on
just
the side.
point
of
to
the
that on the picture to help the public. Yeah, that area there is about 30 feet from the street.
And additionally, you know, members of the board visited the property pretty carefully and walked all these streets to see. The other important part is the back of the building does not abut directly up to the street. There's also quite a big space between, I guess technically the front of the building, up on, what is the street up on the top of the hill?
Maynard.
Up on Maynard, you've got how far until you hit the building from the
20
side?
feet. 20 feet setback.
So there's a 20-foot setback from Maynard. So you're really talking about the footprint of this building is for an apartment here in the village of Tuckahoe is much smaller, and you've left us a lot of space around the building, which is appreciated.
And just so the public knows, on that corner there, if you could point to that, right there. There is an existing apartment building that will come down.
Yes.
Yeah. And the rest is basically garages, one-level garages that have been, well, they're somewhat in disrepair, so it will be an improvement to the neighborhood. But the fact that there's a ton of green space both on Maynard and on Wallace, I think is to the credit of the architect.
Thank you very much.
I got one question. That's what I forgot to ask. Where's the main entrance going to be?
The main entrance is here on Maynard.
It's on Maynard, okay.
Right.
Now, in Maynard, it's only 2 stories
Yeah.
above ground. So if you're walking down the street towards Maynard, you're only going to see 2 stories on the far right of the building. Then as you walk down the hill, it will increase in height.
Yeah, this is the elevation on Maynard, and this dotted line is actually the street, the sidewalk level. So at this point in the sidewalk, you have 2-story, and then it goes down to 3-story.
Okay. Thank you.
Good, thank you. And just so the public knows, the applicant does not need a variance for height. They were within their right to build this building at this particular height. And it was based on the input from this board and others that they took into consideration and then tiered the building so it didn't look like a large square box.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, they can go up to 3 stories above that Maynard, right? So I would like the public to keep that in mind. Essentially, if they didn't want to come in front of this board, this applicant could build a rectangular box, go up another story, and there's nothing we have any say on. There's a lot of this is they're building a healthy building that, you know, is based on our input and feels like a good addition to this space.
I think that's an excellent point. As of right, they could have put up a very large square box, and there was not, you know, they didn't need approval. They didn't need any variances, so I think we appreciate that, and the community will appreciate it as well.
Thank you very much.
With regard to that, excuse me, you, I like your design, think it's really nice and everything else like that there, okay? My thing is the effect on the school system, okay? The previous design had a very minimal effect, if any, on the school system, okay? All right, this here, you know, potentially has a very large effect on the school system because prior to this, you didn't have any 3 bedrooms, now you got 3 bedrooms, okay? Before, it was mainly 1 bedrooms and studios. Now, the 1 bedrooms is only like 1/7 of what you had originally, okay? The number of 2 bedrooms went up, I think, like 4 times, 3 or 4 times, okay? All right? This all has an possibility or potential impact on our school system.
I would like to
Why
clarify
don't we
that.
bring in our planner, okay? Because, you know, he's going to need to let the public know the feeling with regard to this. I know my feeling, okay, and I'm concerned about the potential.
I would also be interested in hearing our planner's opinion. I would also like to point out that in no way is this board allowed to consider the impact on the school district as part of this application. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that statement would be correct. But I would also like to point out that we do have a lot of data, you know, just for clarity and just for edification, we do have a lot of data for multifamily developments in Westchester, also in Tuckahoe, and the data does show that in general, multifamily units produce on average of 0.1 or less school children per unit. We're seeing 0.07 is generally an average, but we also have data based on unit mix. We have a study from Rutgers that's looked at over 450 developments in the New York metropolitan area, and their data has been very helpful and has confirmed what we've seen in the real world. And what we see when we apply that to this project is that, you know, we would expect, you know, in the range of 3 to 8 school children to be generated. You know, obviously this is an estimate, but this is consistent with what we've seen in the area. And we also, you know, understand that there are concerns about, you know, fiscal impacts. But we generally see that multifamily units have proven to be tax generators for the community, and you know, don't have the same kind of impacts as single family. But to reiterate your point, this not necessarily a consideration for, you know, at this point for the variances.
It's the 5-prong test you have to look at on this one.
And just to clarify, the data you're providing is based on similar communities to ours with similar attractive school systems.
That's right. We have data from Bronxville, from Scarsdale, also from Tuckahoe, White Plains, you know, all around comparable municipalities in Westchester.
And do we know the amount of children, for example, that are living, which I believe 100 Main Street is already sold out? Do we know the number of children at 100 Main Street?
From what I hear, I would have to clarify this, but there aren't any school children at 100 Main Street, and I've also heard from the developer at the quarry that they have, I believe the school children ratio comes out to 0.07 exactly, which is comparable to what we've seen elsewhere in the county.
So by and large, the amount of school taxes these locations pay in general outweighs the amount of
Yeah, I mean,
costs,
you'd have
you
to
could
look.
say.
I mean, a lot of it has to do with the specific, pro forma and assessments for each building. So I don't want to say that necessarily, but it has proven to be the case in a lot of other comparable developments in municipalities in Westchester.
Thank you.
Very helpful, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Anything else?
Now, we have nothing further to add unless the board, again, has any other questions. We would respectfully request that the board make a motion to declare itself lead agency, and I'm not sure what the board's position is relative to closing the public hearing tonight, but other than that, we have no further comments.
Very good. Okay, thank you. You can
Thank
have
you.
a seat. So Gary, the public hearing is still open on this. Do I hear from the public first, or do we
I think you should do the seeker.
seek a lead agency?
First.
Okay. Does a member have a motion regarding secra that they would like to present?
I do. Can I get your copy, Tom? Thank you. I have a motion in the form of a resolution. Resolution designating the Tuckahoe Village Zoning Board of Appeals as lead agency under the State Environmental Quality Review Act for approval of zoning variances as part of a proposed multifamily building at 82 Wallace Street. Whereas the Tuckahoe Village Department of Buildings received a building permit application received on December 20th, 2018 for a multifamily building at 82 Wallace Street. Whereas the proposed action is a request of 4 variances as part of a plan to redevelop the existing site as multifamily housing. The proposed building will include 32 units, 48 parking spaces, 45 of which are in an enclosed garage and landscaped areas and screening along the frontages of the property along Wallace Street, Maynard Street, and Limekiln Road. Whereas the approval of the proposed action is classified as an unlisted action under the Part 617 of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, and whereas under the Tuckahoe Village Law, the Zoning Board of Appeals is the only entity that can grant a zoning variance. Now therefore be it resolved that 1, the Tuckahoe Village Zoning Board of Appeals hereby declares itself as lead agency to coordinate the environmental review of the proposed action. Do I need to read the contact details here, Gary?
Maybe just the lead agency with the agency. You don't have to do the address.
Okay. Lead agency contact information, Tuckahoe Village Zoning Board of Appeals. 2, the Tuckahoe Village Zoning Board of Appeals directs that proposed action be forwarded to the following involved and interested parties for review and comment pursuant to New York State municipal law. Involved agencies, Tuckahoe Village Planning Board. Interested agencies, Westchester County Department of Planning. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Nancy, please poll the board.
Yes, Member Garrity,
Approve.
Member Fiore,
In favor.
Member Palladino,
In favor.
Member Jackman,
In favor.
Chairman Ringwald.
In favor. Thank you, everyone. So the public hearing remains open, and to answer the gentleman's question, that we plan to now hear from the public and leave the public hearing open one more month. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak regarding 82 Wallace Street? Please step forward. State your name for the record.
Anthony Laurie, 123 Wallace Street. Before I ask any questions, is this a done deal? Because the man's machinery's been there since late October, and I already happened to walk over there. There's already porta sands there. I guess the man's ready to bring his construction crew in. So I'd just like to know, is this a done deal before I ask any questions?
Well, as I pointed out earlier, Mr. Laurie, that the gentleman has, as of right, could build this building, make it a little bit smaller, but as of right, he can go forward and build the building without any variances. I think he's being a good neighbor by requesting the variances that he is, rather than putting up a square box. So in my opinion, and we have to turn to the building inspector, but in my opinion, the answer would be yes. He could withdraw this application and build the building as of right.
Mr.
It's his
Chair.
property.
Also, if I need to be corrected by Mr. Williams, I believe that the equipment there, he has demolition permits to take down the buildings that are existing, and they're in pretty poor condition.
Yeah.
So I believe that's why the equipment's there. Is that right, Mr. Williams?
Okay. I hope everything goes smooth, because I know when he brought his equipment in, put a big hole in the street, and I called Mr. DeMarco up saying that there's a big hole in the street, you know, and when he brought his machinery in, he just dropped the trailer, unloaded his machinery, the garbage truck had to back up out of the way, you know. We have to understand we got emergency vehicles that have to come through, and we're not going to be blocking the street up. It's not a main thoroughfare there. What's going to happen on the construction? Where's it going to go? Where's the traffic going to go? We also have a church here. You know, come Sunday morning, you have church services. Saturday afternoon, you have church services. You have senior citizens going to the church on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There's a lot of traffic going in that area. And you're going to have a lot of construction equipment coming through there, concrete trucks, steel trucks. Where are they going to do all this parking while this is going on?
If I may on that also. And I think this, and Bill, again, correct me if I'm wrong, this, you're going to get a construction plan. So those details will be worked out with the building department, and it's great points that you're bringing up, Mr. Laurie. And those are all things that they're going to take into consideration to make sure there's minimal impact to the neighbors.
Now we're going to have garages for one car per family?
1.5.
Now, you know as well as I do, most families all have two cars. Where's all this parking going to go? If you try to go up and down Waller Street now, when someone's coming up and someone's coming down, someone has to wait at either end. Where's all this traffic going to go? Maynard Street, don't forget, is not very, very huge, and neither is Waller Street. We're going to have a lot of congestion over there, believe me, and it's not going to be a picnic, God forbid, if we have any kind of emergency, whether police, fire, ambulance, while this construction is going on.
If I may, Mr. Laurie, this is one of the first apartment buildings, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, some of the gentlemen have been on this board longer than I have, but this is one of the first they didn't need a variance. They actually provided more than enough parking based on the zoning code here in the village. So they went above and beyond as far as the parking went. Most of the buildings, including Quarry Place and 100 Main, I believe, both asked for variances for their parking.
Correct.
This building did not. So
And how's Limekill going to go? Is that going to go two ways or one way? Because the garages are going to be on that side where the people are going to be going in and out?
I'm not aware of what is allowed currently into the street, but I will defer to our police and fire department. who
Okay,
sure
but I'm
will-
saying, which way are the garages going to be located? On Limekill or Maynard Street? What side?
Maybe the architect can point them out. Right there.
Okay, so you're not taking no parking spaces off of Limekill, and you're not taking no parking spaces off of Maynard?
No.
No parking spaces are going to be lost.
He has built plenty of parking for his structure.
I'm just saying, the parking that's there now is not going to be lost on either side, Limekill or Maynard Street. Nothing's going to be lost.
You're talking about public parking, not
Right,
not
right.
construction parking.
Right, public parking, there's not going to be nothing lost, right? That's what you're saying? Yes, but I'm saying, so what are you going to lose, one or two spaces? There's one curve cut going into the driveway. But on Limekill and Maynard Street, they park on both sides of that street. Okay, so you're not taking none of those parking spaces away, correct? Other than that, that's what I'm saying. So if you take a curb cut 15, 20 feet, the rest of the cars could park on the street. Okay, I'm going to hold you to that.
If I may clarify, Mr. Laurie, the entrance on Limekiln is an existing, I believe it's an existing space already. The entrance there, the curb cut is already.
There's no existing on Limekill over there.
Isn't there an existing?
No. The entrance
that's
to that
the-
driveway is on Waller Street. The Limekill is all parking on one side. There's no exits in or out over there. The entrance to that driveway is on Waller Street.
And the entrance on Lime Kiln is for the other building,
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of, the other building next door.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
where they're taking the wall down.
What wall?
Next to the L ride, I forgot the name of the building, on the corner, the existing building that's staying on that
Right.
square block.
He has a driveway for that building.
Yes, that's the driveway I think that Member Jackman was thinking of. That's
Okay.
the
Yeah,
existing.
but that don't pertain to this.
No,
You're correct.
Okay, and then there's a garage from Mr. Carapella's house.
I don't know Mr. Carapella's house.
The house that's half torn down already. Is that part of this project?
Yes,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the next garage that's there. That's the only other where no parking should be because the man has a garage there. That's what I'm saying. Otherwise, the rest of the street has parking.
right.
Okay. So we're only going to lose one area where he's going to make his cutout.
And won't you gain one on Maynard, where there's an entrance now that goes into the garage? Yeah, you'll gain one or two there. On Wallace, sorry, Wallace. You know on Wallace,
Yeah.
where you pull into the,
His driveway.
right.
There's two cars parked in front of that house now.
That'll be closed up.
That'll
now.
be closed.
That entrance
Okay.
is closed up.
So that's the only other two that you're going to lose.
No, no,
No, you gain one.
You'll gain.
There's an entrance there right now that's going to be closed off.
Okay.
So
Okay. The
It'll
answer.
be net zero.
Pardon me?
Hopefully it'll be a net zero.
Well, hopefully, while this construction is going on, it don't interfere with the rest of the neighborhood. That's what I'm concerned about, very concerned about. Because we had a project, and I don't want to get into it, you know. We had a project over there on Circle Road. It was a mess. It was a mess, and it was just a mess, I think, right before Thanksgiving, when the man poured more concrete and washed everything down the street. And I don't want this to happen over there. Because I'm sure somewhere along the line, something's going to happen that the people are going to get aggravated. And as I say, don't forget, Saturday afternoon is a very, very congested area around there when church services are on. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Laurie, on that incident you were speaking about before Thanksgiving?
Yes.
That gentleman we brought into court, and he paid over $1,000.
Good. He should have paid more. He should have paid a lot more. He had messed the street up many times, and he got away with plenty. You know that how that man got away with a lot of stuff.
He paid the fine, so.
Good.
thank you for your input, Mr. Laurie.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Laurie. Anyone else from the public would like to speak regarding this project? Please step forward, state your name for the record.
Good evening, John Seminara, one of the owners of property across the street and adjacent to 70 Lime Kiln. And I think that this is going to be a great improvement to the neighborhood. You know, up until a couple of years ago, the building, there was no sidewalk on that street. So the building was right, the street went up to the building. So now, having, the way I see it, you're going to have a nice setback on Lime Kiln and on Wallace. I think it's going to be a great improvement, you know, although it might be, you know, some traffic issues or something like Mr. Laurie was saying, but I think overall, when it's done, I think this will be a great thing for everybody.
We hope so.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
I know traffic's always been a concern. When they put up the Crestwood building, there was a lot of concern about it, and I live right by that, and to date, I haven't seen any problems with it. When they put up some of the buildings on Main Street years ago, same concerns with traffic, and I have not seen it. Yes, there's more traffic than there ever was before. There's more people in Tuckahoe than there ever was before. There's a give and take, you know, there's a plus to that and there's a minus. I agree, but I don't think it's enough to say, turn around and say, don't do anything with this property. That's my personal opinion, anyway. Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, going to make a motion to leave the public hearing open until our next meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. I think that wraps it up on this for this evening. Anything else before we let them go?
Thank you.
No,
Thank you
I'm
again for the green
I'm
space.
talking about Wallace, I'm sorry. Yep. Good job, really. Thank you, and thank you to the public for their input, really. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Take care.
Okay, our next and final agenda item is 38 Pleasant Place. Is the applicant present? Please step forward and state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name's Andrew Brodnick. I'm an attorney, and I'm representing Brian Naughton, the owner of 38 Pleasant Place. He's here for several variances which have arisen since he purchased the property last year. Prior to purchasing the property and entering into a contract of sale, he
Thank you.
was to have received a certificate of occupancy from the seller, which would have designated the property as a three-family dwelling. Unfortunately, that did not happen because indeed there is apparently not any certificate of occupancy.
May I ask why the sale then went through if that was not provided?
That's an issue that my client has spoken with his attorney who represented him during the closing. She did not really provide much of an adequate answer, and hopefully, if we are able to obtain the relief that we think we're entitled to before this board and the planning board, it won't be necessary to revisit that issue.
But I would just like to clarify that it was discussed prior to purchase, the possibility of this being a three-family issue.
Yes, in the contract of sale, provided that it would be a three-family, that a certificate of occupancy authorizing the property to be used as a three-family home would be provided.
So the issue was aware, the individual was aware of the issue when purchasing the house. However, the paperwork is not provided
Correct.
based on extenuating oversights.
Pretty
Thank
gross
you.
oversight by the attorney representing him. His expectation was, based upon the contract and based upon all the conversations he had with all of the parties, that it was a legal three-family house. Lo and behold, after he purchased the property and began to make certain improvements, replacing boilers, when he went to get a building permit, he was delivered the unfortunate news, and in fact, it's not a legal three-family house. And the zoning for the Pleasant Place area in which the house is located is two-family. And that's what brings us before the zoning board. Having researched the issue, the assessment cards which we could find indicated that the property was being taxed as a three-family house, a three-family dwelling. Based upon an examination, it appears it was the basement apartment that was the third family unit, if you will. And based upon the consultant's, Mr. Brandis's examination of it, it looks to be built sometime in the 50s, so it's presumably been there for a very, very long time. But obviously, my client, have to do a little bit more work on that. He bought it thinking it was a three-family and doesn't have any dispositive evidence right now as to how long it's been there. It was built in 1928, and again, as the documents that I've showed have indicated, that it's been taxed as a three-family house. So we're here before the board to seek a number of variances. One is a use variance to have the house designated a variance granted so that it could be a three-family, utilized as a three-family multiple dwelling. We respectfully submit, and I know we've discussed in the work session providing some more evidence and fleshing out all of the details involved in the application, but I think that'll demonstrate that my client would definitely suffer from unnecessary hardship in the event that a variance is not granted, because he didn't know before he purchased the property and wasn't adequately represented, and did not know that it was apparently there was no certificate of occupancy authorizing its use. We also submit that if the variance is granted, it won't change the essential character of the neighborhood. Across the street, there are multiple family units. There appears to be a four-unit building at 32 Pleasant Place based upon 4 mailboxes that are on the outside. Obviously, there are a number of two-family units, so it already is authorized more than its single-family occupancy. And we would also submit that his hardship is unique because he didn't know what he was stepping into, and therefore he didn't buy it. It's not a self-created hardship. It's unique in the sense that he expected a three-family dwelling. He paid for a three-family dwelling. He has a mortgage that he has to pay, and he's already had to absorb the loss of being able to rent the other 2 units out. He lives on the top floor due to the lack of authorization to have it as a three-family unit. The other variances that we seek are also relatively minor, at least in light of the fact that this building was built in 1928. So the setbacks, the FAR, and some of the other issues that Mr. Brandis will discuss We're not, but we're within the code to the extent there was a code that even mandated that, and that the whole nature of the neighborhood is pretty much buildings that are quite close to one another, so.
Well, not to speak out of turn, we have plenty of buildings come up with it's such an old neighborhood. The use variance is really, I think, what we need to concentrate on for our
Agreed,
purposes. And Gary can correct me if I'm speaking out of turn, but a use variance is a very high bar. Is that fair to say, Gary?
That is generally fair to say.
Okay.
If I may address that briefly, in researching it, in fact, many jurisdictions don't differentiate between use and area variances, and I would respectfully submit that this is really more in the nature of an area variance, because we're not changing the use of the building, we're just adding a third unit. I know I don't want to get into.
Well, the use of the building is designated as a two-family, which you are illegally using as a three-family, so it is a use variance.
Well, not currently, there's only.
Correct.
there's only two.
I apologize. You are not currently using it. The previous owner possibly may have been using it as an illegal three-family.
Correct.
Correct.
That's the use of it, but
I understand the semantics, sir, but
it's-
yes.
It's semantics, but I think we would still, I'm confident that we would still fulfill those requirements for a use variance, even though indeed they are higher. But I believe under these unique circumstances that we can establish that.
I don't want to belabor this point, but I having a hard time wrapping my head around this. So basically, the original attorney missed this, and the title search company missed this, and the bank mortgage people missed this. The only time it came up is when you went for the CO,
Went for a building permit.
building permit?
Yeah.
Sorry?
And then
Yeah.
that issue came up, yes. That's the uniqueness of the hardship that my client's suffering.
Yeah.
And again, you know, during the work session, it's been indicated that the public hearing will be kept open, and we'll be able to submit additional information establishing just how tremendous that hardship would be. Candidly, of course, have thought about legal action, but if we can, and again, we're confident that we can establish a right to a use variance, that would obviate the need to
Well, the whole
bring
purpose,
this to the attention legally of some parties who should have been more alert to the
Conscientious.
situation.
that's the purpose of this board, is to help you without hurting the detriment, not to the detriment of the community at the same time. So, you know, we understand and we empathize, but it just, you know, I mean, you went over it, and I hear you. It just seems like a series of pretty bad events, one after another. It just,
A series of unfortunate events.
there you go, right. You're right. Hey, now, you said in the work session that you believe there's 3 electric meters?
Yes.
Not for the common area? The third meter is not for the common area, it's for the apartment itself?
Correct, yes, yes. And again, all indications are that the basement unit has been there for many, many, many years. It was in the same family from at least 1956. It was owned by Rose Romano, who apparently was the mother or grandmother of one of the owners who sold the property to my client. And she purchased the property in 1956. She might actually have either purchased it or inherited it from another family member, the Petrillos, who apparently built the house and lived there from 1928, I think, to 1956. But we have to fill in a little bit of the history. But it's been a three-family unit for many, many years, from what we can tell.
Does the basement unit fit all the legal requirements as a standalone apartment?
Not under the current code, but that's something Mr. Brandis can address, and the changes that need to be made. There will be some physical changes that will need to be made, and I don't think any variances,
But as far as egress, and I think for Mr. Brandes, question would be egress, size of apartment, bathroom, et cetera, it's meeting the basics
Size
of,
of the apartment, egress, the question is the egress windows in the bedroom that do not meet today's code. So those need to be updated to meet today's code, because that was changed several years ago from 4 square feet to 5.7 square feet. So there's a difference in the code. So we will be upgrading that as part of, since we are going for a new C of O. Apparently there has been no C of O issued to this building in the past. There is no record of a C of O in that building. Also keep in mind that the town of Eastchester and the village of Tuckahoe have this listed on their tax assessor's records as a 3-family house. And so when the banks did look at that, they did look at those assessments, and it said 3-family on those. And And they didn't go any further saying, oh, but it only has 2 bathrooms listed on those records as well.
Oh, okay.
But it does say 3-family on the records, so they didn't
That
go to
helps.
the building department because there was no C of O listed anywhere. There's still no C of O listed in the building department.
I would like to clarify that the tax assessor does not, is not responsible for compliance, and therefore do not trouble themselves with whether or not the building they're assessing is complying with the zone that it's in. So an illegal apartment clearly illegal apartment, would not bother them at all. They would just call it a 3-family and move on.
But at least it's understandable.
It is
Because
understandable.
when I ran off that list, how could 3 different agencies miss it? Now you've clarified. You could see why it might
See
happen.
why it
Right.
happened. So they didn't find the C of O, so they said, okay, let's look here, and they found a note that said 3-family. It was listed by the real estate agents as a 3-family.
Right.
So everything said 3-family except the C of O, because there was none.
Yeah.
I got one. Was there ever a title search on this? Will the title search do everything?
It was a title search.
Search, yeah.
Nobody bought the
Nah.
property, and it didn't come up.
Then none. Okay. Wow.
Again, it's because it's stated on the tax assessor's form, and there was no C of O anywhere to be found.
Well, this was also supposed to be provided, as we already have gone through ad nauseum, was supposed to have been provided with certification of 3-family prior to sale. So we can't assign this all to the tax assessor.
And now what we do need to make it a legal building, since it has no C of O, we need to make it meet all the legal requirements of today's zoning code. There was no zoning code when the house was built. The setback requirements, which is a 9-foot side yard setback, only has 5.8 feet on one side of the building. Once again, this was done before the zoning code existed. In addition, the floor area ratio, which now is only allowed to have 0.5, the building is actually 0.74. Once again, this is the building as is. Nobody's made any additions to this building. You can see it has not been added to or anything like that since the building's been built, but it was built differently, and that's why the zoning codes and the variances and all these things were made to begin with. You know, setbacks were changed because
Right.
buildings were made a little bit bigger and more bulky than we want today. But this was pre-existing.
Yeah. Well, as pointed out, our concern is the use variance. It's not the pre-existing conditions.
That FAR that you said at .74, that includes the basement?
Yes, it does.
The basement as an apartment?
As an apartment. Well, as a livable space. It has,
Yeah.
7-foot ceilings. It has, full bathroom, has a kitchen, has everything else in it, and a full entrance in the back, private entrance in the back of the building.
I mean, a use variance is, it's tough. It's a high bar, as your lawyer knows well. And financial hardship is gonna have to be one of those components, which we've discussed in the meeting.
And that will be provided, all financial information will be provided for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you, and we need to do a little more homework on our end through our building department to see what's on record and what's not on record, so we can make an informed decision. Anything else?
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members before we let them take a seat?
One note in terms of
Sure.
parking, because the current code requires
Yeah.
2
Oh.
parking spaces per unit for these houses, and right now we only have 5 parking spaces within the driveway as shown, so there would be, once again, to make it a total legal use, we would need to have a variance for that, for 5 parking spaces instead of 6.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
If I'm
gentlemen.
not mistaken, okay, you say you have 5 parking spaces. According to the denial, it says you only have 2.
Well, the drawing that I submitted to you
Yeah,
shows
the-
5
well, you have
parking
one
spaces.
car parked in front of the other, in
They
other
are
words.
stacked. There's 2 in the front and the drive at the end of the driveway, and cars can actually pass through. It's wide. It is a wide driveway, so another car can squeeze through there.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Nope, not for me.
I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing for 30 Pleasant Place. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone from the public would like to step forward regarding 30 Pleasant Place? Seeing none, I will make a motion to keep the public hearing open. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any other business concerns? Anyone need to address anything? Seeing none, I will make a motion to close this meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, Tuckahoe.